What's up, guys? Scaling your brand to $50,000 a week like this brand owner that we've been working with is completely different than getting from 0 to 1 and getting to a decent scale, because you need to have your systems, your basically your team structure, your entire creative strategy, and also, and this is what I'm going to talk about, your offer system and landing page system in place. And that's exactly what I want to break down. So I'm going to give you guys the entire SOP of how we do this in-house and how you can kind of copy this, or at least take a little bit of pieces here and there, learn a lot from this video, hopefully go out there and apply it. And I hope, obviously if I can help you at least get a little bit better and learn a little bit and save you a little bit of time, then I feel like I've done my job. So let's get right into it. Basically, what we usually start with, if we're trying to kind of like establish a new offer system into the brands that we work with, it's usually surveys. Okay, so it starts with asking customers that you already have, because that is more powerful than competitor research. That is obviously more powerful than any type of ChatGPT foundational document research. And so it is the best life hack that every e-com brand can do. Now, when you're just launching your brand, completely fine. You can't really do this because you don't have an existing base of customers. So what I would then actually do is kind of revoke to those other options of doing research, mostly actually sitting on some spy tools or ads library and actually just scrolling through and actually understanding, tracking, right, having whole spreadsheets for variables that you look at. So let it be actually like different competitors, let it be avatars, let it be angles, let it be the length of the ads, let it be the awareness stages of the hooks, and all these things you just break down and you collect as much data as possible. Okay, so this is super important before we even start building our offers. And then when we have all this information specifically, right, when you have the leverage to use surveys, what you're going to look for is, for example, relevant competitors. Who have you guys made? So you, like, I'm thinking about, you basically what the survey would say. Hey, what were competitors that you tried in the past? What other competitors have you looked at, right? Maybe are you now using another competitor? Completely fine task. What additional products would you need or would you like in the offer to get you to the goal more quickly? How long did it take you from the day that the product arrived until the day that you actually unboxed it? Are you still using our product, right? How difficult it is to use? Is it like as easy as possible? And simplicity, like one of the most important factors in nowadays in terms of, the customer experience, is that given or not? And then what you want to do with these pieces of information is you want to craft a cold friendly offer, meaning an offer which is there to convert cold audiences. We don't care about selling a product. All we care about is solving a problem. Okay, that should be your main purpose, right? Solving the problems of your prospects. Okay, and that's when you can charge more for it. That's when people will return more often, and that's when you attract better quality customers that are even easier to make happy. Okay, so all these things happen, as like a chain reaction, a chain effect to you just actually giving your offer situation a lot of thought before you launch it. And now that we have our information, that have our research, have our surveys and whatnot, now we're going to actually start building it, which is going to come down to having 2 sections inside of the offer, or maybe even only this. This is the more important one, which is the consumable one. And then we have a high perceived value one. Now, oftentimes this will be the same. Let's say you sell a supplement or something. Obviously, then your product is the hero product. So it should be positioned as very high perceived value by you, and it's consumable too. So if you have a consumable hero product, then this is all in one, and that will be one of the easiest positions for you to actually craft a good offer and have a good margin because of subscription offers, which I'm going to get into. However, if you don't have a consumable hero main product, then you're going to use your main product to justify the price, and then you're going to add in another product which is there to support the high perceived values product or the use case or any type, make it easier and quicker for people to reach the dream outcome, or actually just make it more effective or easier to use or more attractive to use. Whatever you're going to do, you're going to think of something that is consumable to add in there. Okay, so there's a bunch of examples to execute this. For example, right, and that's kind of what I always give. If you think about like some hair curling tool, right, you could sell some type of heat protection spray so that the people actually don't burn their hair, and it basically protects their hair and all that kind of stuff. So what you can then do, right, is you're going to build a subscription offer for that consumable part. So basically you're going to charge a lot of money for the upfront offer. Obviously, for whether they subscribe or not, it should cost a lot of money because you also want to be profitable upfront. And if you actually go from solving, like basically just selling a product to actually solving a problem, oftentimes you'll get away with charging $20, $30, $40 more than what you charge right now. And often that's what we're seeing for a lot of brands right now. And in fact, what's going to happen realistically is that the consumable portion is something which people value a lot too, because that is exactly the component that oftentimes takes this switch, right, from selling products to solving problems. Oftentimes that's the little key to it. Therefore, people will be open to subscribing to that little thing. And so if you can get people to basically be charged again monthly, automatically, maybe even more than monthly, right, then you're going to have a big fat margin, which other competitors that don't have this structure are going to compete with. And automatically you're going to be able to not look at your margin so much and stop the criteria of, oh my God, I need a $25 margin after payment processing fees on my... It's nonsense, right? Why? Because if you have a consumable offer and if you have a subscription offer in place with a high take rate, which I'm also going to break down, then what's going to happen is you don't have to worry anymore about these take rate, about the margins on your product and the gross margin and whatnot. Of course, you should try to position it very expensive. However, this is like even more important, and that's also what I'm going to break down. So when we have our offer, we're actually going to make another one. Okay, that's the first thing we do. We make two different offers and we launch two offers at once. Okay, so this is when the offers go live. So once again, if you already have a brand and if you've done the survey part, you're just going to take your best couple ads and then launch it for the two new offers. If it's like some type of special offer that it wouldn't make sense for to run your current winning creatives for, then you basically iterate on these best ads that you have so that they actually make sense for this offer, or actually record completely new concepts and just launch separate campaigns, for example, for these offer structures. Also a completely fair example. So what you want to do basically, and when it comes to this first A/B test, is realistically you want to make it as different as possible from each other. Okay, so this is like always, you think of this testing order of, you know, basically the less you know about your offers, about your avatars, whatever, in the beginning, in the early stages, you should test stuff against each other. There's as different from each other as possible, so-called high impact tests, which are therefore going to have bigger differences in the results. And that's what you look for. And so how this is going to specifically look like is, for example, let's say offer A is for example, a buy one, get one free structure with a consumable. And then it's like some type of, subscription with 15% off. Okay. And then a different price than from offer B, which is some type of bundle discount or low upfront, high shipping with a different consumable product and a different whatever. And it's all going to be very different from each other. Core problem that it solves, core desire that it speaks to should ideally be the same. However, you're going to say the same thing in two very different ways. And then all you look for is which one, and this is actually the important things, right? You're going to look for two metrics here. First one is the revenue per visitor, and the second one is actually the lifetime value, or in fact, I call this the take rate of the subscriptions. So you can obviously just track it. And the reason I call this LTV, lifetime value, is because obviously we don't know it yet. It can happen that for two different offers, obviously, one of them has higher churn, for example, completely normal. But usually offers with higher take rates, significantly higher take rates, make you more money in the long run. And so what you're going to look for basically is you're going to look for the better performing offer in terms of revenue per visitor and like take rate of subscriptions. And then for the better performing offer, let's say it's offer A here, you're then going to look for the weakest metric, because it's not just good or bad. It's not just yes or no. It's not a yes or no type of question. It's just, okay, it's profitable. It has maybe a $3 revenue per visitor and like a 70% take rate on the subscriptions. Well, what can be better, right? In my opinion, in that case, it would be the take rate. Push it up to 80, 90, maybe 100%. Maybe everyone is supposed to subscribe to your bundle or to your offer, whatever it is. And so you always look at the weakest metric in your business and fix that first, because that will have a higher impact than everything else. And this is kind of the thought process. Now, how that looks like, obviously, revenue per visitor comes down to conversion rate and AOV. And if you have this issue right now, if that's kind of like your main problem, then you have a pricing issue. You haven't really executed the value equation properly, or we could say we don't have enough of a price value discrepancy. People don't respect your price as much. And that usually comes down to actually, like I said, the value and price discrepancy, the difference and the gap between the price, what people pay, the value, what people get, is just not large enough. Now, how do you make that big? bigger? Well, the value equation is how you can push the value up as much as possible, and that comes down to the dream outcome. So actually not just, like I said before, right? Not just selling a product, but actually solving the deepest, corest problems in the copy with the products and with everything that you basically showcase. They should immediately get the deepest desire, right? So let's say you're selling a makeup product. You don't sell the makeup product, you sell looking good, you sell finding a boyfriend or whatever, okay? That's what you sell, okay? So always think of the deepest desire. That's a dream outcome. Then we have the perceived likelihood of achievement, which is essentially going to be how much do they believe that when they take your offer, they're actually going to achieve that dream outcome fairly quickly. That's the second thing. Now, what you have to minimize in terms of the value equation is obviously the time delay. So make them believe that they're going to achieve it as quickly as possible. And then also the effort and sacrifice, which is essentially how much work do they have to put in until they achieve that. And this is how you can push the value as high as possible. And when you provide more value, you can also charge more money. Usually it's said that around 10 to 20% of the value should be your price, right? If you're not doing B2B, if you're doing e-commerce, it's going to be a little bit harder to measure, right? Because obviously you don't provide value in a specific dollar amount. But to be fair, finding a life partner and finding like a good relationship might be unpaid, like worth so unlimited amounts of money for people, meaning you can also charge more money for it, okay? So this is kind of the mindset that you have to think about when you position your offers. Now, if your weakest metric is the take rate of the subscription offer, then you basically, it will come down to bad price anchoring. For example, sometimes when you look at offers, subscriptions don't even make sense. Oftentimes the product just looks like half consumable and it doesn't really make sense to subscribe. Or like the like I said, price anchoring, meaning they basically get no benefits of subscribing, and obviously it's larger risk to subscribe even though they pay less. So make the gap bigger, make it feel painful to buy one time, and make the logic behind it better. And so if they trust you already, then you're going to obviously choose to pay less monthly. Makes sense. But if they don't trust you, if you failed on all these parts, for example, over here, and if there's no price anchoring in place, then obviously, yes, you have your answer. That's why people aren't taking the subscription. And then oftentimes people really just, like the LTV doesn't make sense, meaning oftentimes people, what they do is they make too good to be true offers, right? So it's like, for example, they have like a completely cheap discount. I mean, you can see this for brands like, for example, AG1. What they do is essentially they give like free bundles. So free bundles, but you have to subscribe. And the reason they do this, or they can do this, is because first of all, they have so much cash flow that they can launch paid ads and scale them like that to the moon. And oftentimes it's just some middle funnel, bottom funnel people that didn't buy anyways, and it's cheaper to retarget those, right? And also, right, it's like, people know that AG1 is legit. And so if you don't have this brand awareness and also don't have like years of brand history, people are not going to trust this offer. And if it's too good to be true, they're actually not going to take it. And then we're back at this issue here, which is a pricing issue, right? So like a too good to be true offer, definitely don't have those in there. It should really be expensive, right? Because that's also when you make the most money, obviously. So after you have your winning offer, you're going to fix these things. You're going to iterate based off of the weakest metric of your better offer, and then you're going to retest, right? Because now let's say, example, like we said, offer A is the winner. Then we're going to do a retest, offer A, offer B, and test 2, as you can see here, right? What we're going to do is we're just going to position the second test closer to offer 1. So we said buy one, get one free, right? What we can do then is offer buy one, get one free for both, maybe a price difference. And then you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and always take the winning offer and always fix the metrics that is the metric that is the weakest. And so it's always either conversion rate, AOV, or the take rate of subscriptions. And it's really like oftentimes people in e-com overcomplicate things, or when they talk about stuff, it makes you think like this is all overwhelming and there's no system and logic behind it. But when you play it through, what can go wrong in an offer? What's the conversion rate? It's the AOV, and it's the take rate of a subscription offer. And if you know what to do to fix these things, which are pretty logical usually, like I kind of explained before, then you pretty much, it's just going to come down to how long is it going to take until I fix this, not how do I fix this, if that makes sense, okay? You're just going to keep doing this until you really have a very solid take rate on the subscriptions and revenue per visitor. Okay, so when both of the metrics you're satisfied with and people are really valuing your offer a lot, you're already going to be in a very cool spot. And then when you're in a very cool spot, what happens is usually people tend to scale. Right now, it's time to really make Facebook rich and pay Facebook as much money as possible to get us as many customers as possible, which makes a lot of sense. And you should definitely surf up your ad accounts as quickly as possible. However, and this is the big problem, oftentimes, and this is where the landing page situation comes in, people tend to scale that fast that the level of unawareness, or like I would say the difficulty to convert the people that come to your store is not enough anymore. Your funnel can't keep up with the level of unawareness of people. That's usually when you notice your conversion rates break. Okay, so you scale, and conversion all of a sudden breaks. Now, oftentimes it's not an issue with the offer. The offer is obviously still a good offer and people are still valuing it. It's just that people are not ready, or the people that come to the store are like so unaware, and it's so random people almost that they just can't keep up. And that is actually when it makes sense to add in friction into your funnel. So there's a lot of people, going around on YouTube and, talking about how advertorials and funnels are going to really be the game changer for you and make everything work for you. And the reality is this: if you have a volume problem, which we have over here, where we don't have enough people on the store, making your funnel longer is obviously not the smartest move to make. So if something, you should make the funnel shorter and not add in any pre-sales pages just because, like with some cool ChatGPT prompts, just because you think then it's like everyone's going to click through and buy from that. And yes, you do attract higher quality customers, but you're not going to get any customers because no one even gets to see the offer if you don't test your products with a lot of money up front. If you do, fair enough, but most people don't. And so then whenever you scaled your product page funnel and really focus on the offer until this system breaks, usually the rule of 3s and 10s, meaning whenever you scale 3x or 10x where you are right now, usually the systems break, and it's different things that get you to the next level, and that's when landing pages come in, okay? So there's an order of how I like to test landing pages, because it's usually not just, okay, pick something cool and then write a ChatGPT prompt and then write some copy and then rip some media, or maybe rip the whole landing page and run it up. Usually that's the wrong approach. Usually that's when landing pages don't work. And so once again, we have a little bit of a testing order, which is from high impact to very specific iteration, right? So we're starting at testing the type of landing page that we want to run. And so there's a couple different types which we even could run. There's obviously the listicle stuff, which is least friction. We have the advertorial stuff, which is a little bit more unaware. We have quiz funnels, where there's a lot more friction because they have to click a bunch of times. And then there's the VSL funnel, which is going to hold them for minutes and minutes and minutes before they even get to see the offer. I've sorted these by least friction to most friction, because you always want to start with least, meaning the listicle situation will be the easiest. And so what I like to do first is, when I get into landing pages, I like to test product-based listicles, so listicles that are about the product, against, like, literally A/B tested against problem-based listicles, where you just basically talk about 3 ways to XYZ. And then product-based would be three reasons why people are switching to XYZ. Okay, talking about something like that. Then, when you scale, you're going to switch to advertorial at some point, then to a quiz funnel, and then to a VSL. Usually, to be fair, you're not even going to need these two, right? Most of the times, it's completely enough to scale to very good numbers with only advertorials. Quiz funnels and VSLs are things that, like, really, I would say for very, very cheap traffic, like if you have an ad, which is half of your average CPCs, usually that makes a ton of sense to then do in funnels with a lot of friction, because those people are not going to be aware enough to buy, even with listicles, maybe not even advertorials. That's when you move to the next type of funnel. And so when you've picked your type that you want to test, then we're not going to test it yet. We're not going to throw it into a new campaign or a new ad set yet. What we're actually going to do is we are going to test headlines. And so this is something which I like to call the headline test, or you guys also might know it as the hook test. Essentially what it is testing with the same exact pixel, same exact everything. You're just going to go ahead and test image ads that look like this. We have a white background, we just have text on it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to think of a lot of different ways to say what we want to say in the headline of this funnel type that we're testing. Okay, so let's say you're testing product-based listicles, and then what you want to do is you want to write down 3 reasons why people are switching from this to this, and then you want to write down 10 ways to use XYZ, my product, properly. And so you want to just give a bunch of these different things and test a bunch of different topics or headlines in terms of image ads. Spend like $5 each, and then you have literally the winner on there. You know what the winning headline is going to be because you just look at the click-through rate, and then that's what you're going to then put on the landing page. That's also a very high leverage thing to do. Never really just immediately go ahead and throw up a funnel that you just quickly made. Always have data behind everything you do and isolate as much as possible. Just a general tip about running paid ads. Then what you're going to do is you're going to essentially want to go ahead and make winning ad specific landing pages. So these 2 steps should take you to fixing your conversion rate back again, and once again pushing, or at least basically, just pushing the plateau a lot higher than what it is right now. And so what I like to do after that is mess around with a lot of very specific things. For example, you can make specific landing pages that have very specific copy and media based off of the winning ad that they just clicked on. So this is just going to increase the conversion rate and the trust and everything, because it just goes through a brand pattern, and you have no pattern interrupt. You have no friction. It's the least type of friction possible because they're just used to this. You kind of like, they have this feeling almost that they associate with you. That's when you develop being a brand. Branding has nothing to do with just getting custom packaging and calling it good. No, this is where you like develop brand awareness. And so that was pretty much it for the SOPs of this video, guys. I hope you could learn a thing or two. Once again, thank you so much for giving me your most important asset, which is your attention. Thanks for watching. I wish you a beautiful day.